Welcome to YAMMO's Reading Room, Jammerinos. Today, we've got another Robert Munsch book. This one is called Good Families Don't. One night, Carmen walked up the stairs to her bedroom. There, lying on her bed, was a great big purple, green, and yellow fart. She ran down the stairs, yelling, "Mommy, Daddy! Mommy, Daddy! Mommy, Daddy! There is a fart up on my bed!" "Don't be ridiculous," said her father. "Good families like ours do not have farts." Nevertheless, he walked up the stairs to see what was going on. When he opened the door to the bedroom, the fart jumped on him. He said, "Ah, ah, ah," and fell right on down. After a while, Carmen began to wonder how her father was doing. She crawled up the stairs very slowly, looked over the top step, and saw her father's feet sticking out from underneath the fart. So Carmen ran downstairs, yelling, "Mommy, Mommy, Mommy! There's a fart on top of Daddy!" "Don't be ridiculous," said the mother. "Good families like ours do not have farts. What would the neighbors say?" Nevertheless, she went upstairs to see what was going on. She opened the door, and the fart jumped on her. She said, "Ah, ah, ah," and fell right on down. Carmen ran to the phone and called the police. She said, "Help, help! There's a fart on top of Mommy and Daddy." "Don't be ridiculous," said the police. "Good Canadians do not have farts. What would the Americans say?" Nevertheless, 3 police drove over to see what was going on. They knocked on the door. Blam, 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 blam. Carmen opened the door and said, "It's upstairs." When the police were halfway up the stairs, the farts started to jump on them. They pulled out their badges and yelled, "Stop!" But everyone knows that farts don't listen to cops. It jumped on them. They went, "Ah, clack, arr," and fell right on down. Carmen decided it was time to leave. She was going to run completely away. She ran through the living room, through the kitchen, into the backyard, and crashed into her mother's favorite rose bush. She got an idea. She picked the biggest rose and gave it a smell. Carmen held the rose out in front and walked back through the kitchen and into the living room. She found the fart hiding behind the piano eating a can of beans. Carmen walked up and stuck the rose right in the fart's nose. It said, "Ach, gawk, arr! What a terrible smell!" and it ran out the front door. Then the mother got up off the floor, the father got up off the floor, and the police got up off the floor. They all looked at Carmen and yelled, "That was a fart!" "Don't be ridiculous," said Carmen. "Good families like ours do not have farts." And she walked up the stairs and went to bed. But Carmen's mother stayed up very late that night, working at her sewing machine. And it turned out that sometimes good children do have farts after all. And that was Good Families Don't by Robert Munsch. A little bit of a stinky book, if you ask me. Well, thank you very much for coming back to YAMMO's Reading Room, Jammerinos, and we'll see you next time. Welcome back to YAMMO's Reading Room, Jammerinos. Today, we've got The Berenstain Bears and the Tooth Fairy by Jan and Mike Berenstain. Here we go. Sister Bear wasn't a little cub anymore. After all, she was almost 7 years old. She had 3 grown-up teeth already, 2 on the bottom and 1 on the top. When her baby teeth came out, Mama and Papa had her put them under her pillow. "While you're sleeping, the Tooth Fairy will come," they explained. "She will take your baby tooth and leave money in its place." So Sister would put the baby tooth under her pillow. When she woke up in the morning, she found she had a shiny new quarter in its place. Sister loved the Tooth Fairy. She thought the Tooth Fairy was almost as good as Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny. One day, Sister was playing with her best friend, Lizzie Bruin. "Guess what?" said Lizzie. "What?" said Sister. "I have a loose tooth," said Lizzie. She opened her mouth wide. "See? It wiggles." She wiggled it back and forth. "When it comes out," said Sister, "the Tooth Fairy will bring you a quarter." "A quarter?" said Lizzie. "When my teeth come out, the Tooth Fairy brings me a whole $1." "A $1?" said Sister, shocked. "How come the Tooth Fairy only brought her a quarter? It wasn't fair." Sister ran home to Mama and Papa. "Lizzie says that when her baby teeth come out, she gets a whole $1. She said, "Why does the Tooth Fairy only bring me a quarter?" "Well," said Mama, "some parents add a little extra to the money that the Tooth Fairy brings, but we think that's the Tooth Fairy's job." "Besides," added Papa, "sometimes the price of things goes up, just like gas. The price of gas for our car went up 20 cents just last week. Maybe the same thing happens with teeth." Do you think the price of my teeth will go up? Asked Sister. We'll just have to wait and see, said Mama. After a few days, Sister forgot all about the Tooth Fairy. She was a busy cub and had things to do. She played house with Lizzie. She played baseball with brother and cousin Fred. She painted pictures of butterflies and flowers. She went fishing with Papa and went shopping with Mama. Lizzie's birthday was coming up. Sister was looking forward to going to a big birthday party. Then, one morning at breakfast, Sister was eating one of Mama's yummy muffins. She felt something different in her mouth. She pushed her tongue against one of her front teeth. It moved a little bit. She had another loose tooth. Mama, Papa, she said, my tooth is loose. Look, it wiggles. That's nice, dear, said Mama. When it comes out, put it under your pillow and the Tooth Fairy will bring you a quarter. Maybe this time I'll get a whole $1, said Sister. Oh, yes, said Papa. The Tooth Fairy is paying more these days. Oh, that's right, said Mama. You explained that the price of teeth is going up, just like gas. Oh boy, said Sister, a whole $1. She thought about what she could get with that $1, but the loose tooth had to come out first. Sister began to wiggle her loose tooth whenever she could. She wiggled it with her tongue. She wiggled it with her fingers. Day after day, she wiggled it and wiggled it. It grew looser and looser, but it did not come out. It was annoying. It made it hard to chew, and Sister was always fussing over it. I sure wish that tooth would come out, muttered Brother as Sister wiggled away. All that wiggling is getting on my nerves. When it comes out, said Sister, I might get a whole $1. I never got a whole $1, grumped Brother. That was back when teeth were still cheap, explained Sister. The day of Lizzie's birthday party soon came. Sister had her present all wrapped, a new Barbie doll for Lizzie's collection. All the cubs began to arrive at Lizzie's house. Lizzie was having an old-fashioned birthday party with old-fashioned party games. They played Pin the Tail on the Donkey, musical chairs, charades, Duck Duck Goose, Hit the Piñata, and Bobbing for Apples. Bobbing for apples was hard. You had to hold your hands behind your back while you tried to bite an apple floating in a tub of water. The apples kept bobbing out of the way, but Sister was determined to get an apple. She lunged at one of the apples and bit down hard. She felt something come loose in her mouth. Her loose tooth was out. It was stuck in an apple. Proudly, Sister brought her baby tooth home and wrapped it in a tissue. Look, Mama, look, Papa, she said. My tooth finally came out. Now I can put it under my pillow and maybe the Tooth Fairy will bring me a whole $1. As Sister got ready for bed that night, she grew thoughtful. Mama, she asked, where does the Tooth Fairy get all that money? I haven't a clue, said Mama. Now brush your teeth, the ones that are left anyway. Carefully, Sister placed her tooth under her pillow. Mama and Papa kissed her goodnight, and she lay awake for a while thinking about finding a $1 in the morning. Then she drifted off to sleep. During the night, Sister had a dream. She dreamed the Tooth Fairy came tiptoeing into her room. The Tooth Fairy was very beautiful. She wore a pink dress and had butterfly wings. She had a flower in her fur and a magic wand. She came over to Sister's bed and smiled down at her. Then she reached under the pillow and... Sister woke up! It was morning and the sun was streaming through the window. The Tooth Fairy was not there. Sister reached under her pillow with great excitement and felt something crisp and crinkly. It was a brand new $1 bill. What a relief, said Sister as Mama and Papa came in. I was afraid the price of teeth might be coming down again. Your baby teeth are very precious, said Papa. Every one that comes out shows that you're growing up fast. They're worth every penny. You mean every $1, said Sister with a big missing tooth grin. Mama and Papa just looked at each other and grinned too. That was The Berenstain Bears and the Tooth Fairy by Jan and Mike Berenstain. You know, this is one of YAMMO's favorite Berenstain Bears books. I used to get a lot of money from the Tooth Fairy, but all of my baby teeth are gone. Maybe yours will come out soon. Thanks for coming by YAMMO's Reading Room, Jammerinos. Stay tuned for more. Welcome back to YAMMO's Reading Room, Jammerinos. Today we have another Berenstain Bears book. It's called The Berenstain Bears Bedtime Battle by Stan and Jan Berenstain. Here we go. Every morning, the members of the bear family woke with a smile. They patiently took turns with their morning wash-up. They got through breakfast without so much as a harsh word. Things also went well at lunch and dinner. But as the sun set and the moon rose, a change came over the big tree house down a sunny dirt road deep in bear country. The birds became alert in their nests. The ears of the squirrels perked up. Even the ladybugs decided not to fly away home. By 8 o'clock, all eyes were on the big tree house. Why? Because the great bedtime battle was about to begin. It began with a simple statement from Papa Bear. It's 8 o'clock, cubs, time for bed. Bedtime already, said Brother Bear. Gee, I'm just getting my Jurassic dinosaurs lined up to fight my Cretaceous dinosaurs. That's all very well, said Papa, but quite aside from the fact that they could never have fought because they lived millions of years apart, and it happens to be bedtime. But nobody goes to bed at 8 o'clock anymore, protested Brother. Besides, I'm older than Sister, so I should be allowed to stay up later. That's not fair, said Sister. It's not my fault I'm younger than Brother. That's enough fussing, said Papa. 8 o'clock is bedtime and it's 8 o'clock, so up to bed we go. Not just yet, dear, said Mama. Not until they picked up all their toys. But Mama, said Sister, my stuffed animals are all set up for a tea party. It's way past tea time, said Mama. Everything must be picked up and put away. Stuffed animals, dinosaurs, everything. Okay, said Brother with a sigh. And ever so slowly, Brother and Sister began to pick up their toys. Don't look now, said Mama to Papa, but at the rate they're going, we'll be down here for another hour. Said Papa. I see what you mean. Hey gang, he said, let's have some fun. Let's see how fast we can pick up toys contest. But the Cubs just kept on picking up toys ever so slowly. By the time Papa won the contest, he was exhausted. Okay, said Papa, now up to bed. Papa, said Sister. Yes, said Papa. Do you remember when we were little and you used to piggyback us upstairs on your back like a horsey? Yes, said Papa, but you're not so little anymore. Please, Papa, please, cried Sister. If I must, groaned Papa. Hi-yo, Papa, shouted the Cubs as they rode upstairs on the back of Horsey Papa. Less noise, please, shushed Mama. I just got baby Honey to sleep. All right, Cubs, said Papa as he reached the top, huffing and puffing. Off with your clothes and into the tub. Last one in is a dirty bird, shouted Brother, as he and Sister ran down the hall, throwing off their clothes. Tub toys, shouted the Cubs as Mama filled the tub. Not so many, she protested. But Brother has 5, cried Sister, and I only have 4. Bath time isn't playtime, said Papa. Only 1 toy to a customer. Bubble bath, cried Sister. Papa, said Mama with a sigh, you do the bubble bath while I get their bathrobes. Just read the instructions on the bottle. Mama went to the Cubs' room, laid out their pajamas, and got their bathrobes. But when she headed back to the bathroom, a strange sight greeted her eyes. Oh my goodness, Papa, what have you done? Cried Mama. The bathroom was filled with thousands and thousands of pink bubbles. I just followed the instructions, he said. I poured in a cupful, just as it says. But if you'll look more closely, said Mama, you'll see that it says capful, not cupful. After a while, the bubbles were gone, and all that was left was a pink slippery goo. Be careful, dear, said Mama, as she rinsed the Cubs with a shower attachment. The floor is quite slippery. But her warning came too late. Aye! Screamed Papa as he crashed to the floor. Mama helped him up. Then she rubbed the Cubs dry with a big nubby towel, and they got into their bathrobes. Next stop, said Mama, brushing your teeth. The ones above, the ones beneath. Not that old white toothpaste, protested Brother. Nobody uses white toothpaste anymore. Brother's right, said Sister. Lizzie Bruin has red and white and blue toothpaste. And Cousin Fred has purple toothpaste, said Brother. However, said Papa, for the time being, we have white toothpaste. And with that, he squeezed the tube too hard, and a big white snake shot out. Finally, the Cubs were all fresh and clean and in their pajamas and ready for bed. All right, said Papa, into bed with you, and I don't want any ifs, ands, or buts. But don't you want us to say our prayers? Asked Sister. And how about our bedtime story? Said Brother. Go ahead, say your prayers, said Mama. By all means, said Papa. Bless Mama, bless Papa, bless Honey Bear, bless Little Lady, bless Kitty, bless Grizzly Gramps, bless Grizzly Grand. Here's the bedtime story I want, said Sister. The 3 little kittens, said Brother. Not that namby-pamby story. Here's a real story. The 3 billy goats gruff. No way, cried Sister. That awful troll gives me nightmares. Please, said Mama, there's no need to fuss. It's very simple. I'll read the 3 little kittens to Sister, and Papa will read the 3 billy goats gruff to Brother. So Brother got comfortable on Papa's lap, and Sister got comfortable on Mama's lap. But it had been quite a battle, and as they began to read, Mama's and Papa's eyes started closing, and soon they were fast asleep. Sister slipped down off Mama's lap. Brother slipped down off Papa's lap. Look, said Sister, they fell asleep. What should we do? Let's let them sleep, said Brother. They need their rest. And that was the Berenstain Bears Bedtime Battle by Stan and Jan Berenstain. Thanks for stopping by Yammo's Reading Room, Jammerinos. We'll see you on the next one. It's Yammo's Reading Room time again, Jammerinos. Today we've got The Berenstain Bears' Dinosaur Dig by Jan and Mike Berenstain. Let's start. Brother and Sister Bear liked to read, and they went to the Bear Country Library quite often. They liked mysteries, adventures, sports stories, and lots of other books too. One day, Brother found a book about dinosaurs. He showed it to Sister, and they looked at it together. It was very interesting. Brother and Sister really liked all those dinosaurs. Learning about them was exciting. They liked their long, ferocious teeth, and they liked their long, ferocious names, like Tyrannosaurus, Stegosaurus, and Triceratops. Stegosaurus had spikes on its tail. It could use them to whack big meat eaters like Tyrannosaurus and Allosaurus, who had those long, ferocious teeth. Triceratops had sharp horns on its head. It could use them to poke any other dinosaur who messed with it. The best part was they lived long, long ago, so you didn't have to worry about them getting you. Mama and Papa were delighted that Brother and Sister had this wonderful new interest, and Honey thought it was okay too. They all went to the Berenstain Museum to see the dinosaur skeletons. They were ginormous! Brother and Sister really liked those dinosaur skeletons. While they were at the museum, Professor Actual Factual saw them and stopped to say hello. He was the head of the museum and an old friend of the bear family. "I see you two cubs have been bitten by the dinosaur bug," he said, smiling. "The dinosaur bug?" said Brother. "What kind of bug is that?" asked Sister. She imagined a huge prehistoric insect. Professor Actual Factual laughed. "I just mean that you've caught an interest in dinosaurs and other prehistoric creatures. Once you've caught that bug, it's hard to get rid of. I know, I've got it too." "In fact," said the professor, "would you like to see my latest dinosaur project?" "Would we ever?" said Sister. "You bet," said Brother. "Then just follow me," said the professor, leading them outside and to the rear of the museum. They came to a big open pit in the ground. Mounds of earth were heaped up everywhere. Down in the pit, scientists were at work carefully digging away. "What's all this?" said Papa, scratching his head. "This is my latest dinosaur dig," explained the professor. "We have discovered a large group of dinosaur fossils right here behind the museum. We're digging them up so that we can study them." "Wow," said Brother. "Did you find a Tyrannosaurus?" "Well, no," said the professor, "but we did find a Spinosaurus skeleton." Spinosaurus was a fierce dinosaur almost as big as the Tyrannosaurus, and it had a huge fin on its back. "Can we see it?" asked Sister. "Of course," said the professor. "Right this way." They all climbed down a ladder into the dinosaur dig. "Now here's the Spinosaurus skeleton," said the professor. "It's the first one found in this area." "Wowie," said Brother. "It's humongous." "And over here," said the professor, "there are many other fossil reptiles." As he led them through the dig, Brother and Sister imagined all the prehistoric creatures as they would have looked when they were alive. Spinosaurus, Corythosaurus, Ankylosaurus, Dimetrodon, Apatosaurus, Pterodactyl, Mosasaurus. They saw another fin-backed reptile, the Dimetrodon, a giant long-necked Apatosaurus, a flying reptile, a pterodactyl, and a giant sea reptile, the Mosasaurus. It was bigger and more ferocious than any shark that ever swam in the seas. "Thank you for the tour, Professor," said Mama, as they climbed out of the dig. "That was very interesting." "Yeah," said Sister and Brother together. "It was awesome!" On the way out of the museum, they stopped in the museum shop to get more books and some dinosaur models and kits. Back home, Brother and Sister soon had every inch of their treehouse covered with model dinosaurs. There were dinosaurs and reptiles fighting on the stairs, eating on the table, sleeping on the sofa, and swimming in the bathtub. There were even some dinosaurs made of clay inside the refrigerator. Brother kept them there so that they wouldn't get soft and squishy. It seemed to Papa and Mama that dinosaurs were everywhere. Before dinner, Papa headed for his favorite easy chair with the evening newspaper. "Oh, Papa," said Sister as he started to sit. "Yow!" Papa yelled, jumping up. "That's my setup of the Jurassic Age," Sister explained. "Sister," said Papa, "I'm delighted that you and Brother have this wonderful new interest, but," he said carefully as he moved the dinosaurs off the chair, "the Jurassic Age will just have to settle for the coffee table." And with a sigh, he sat down to read his paper. That was the Berenstain Bears Dinosaur Dig by Jan and Mike Berenstain. Yammo's favorite dinosaur is the Velociraptor because it's fast just like a cat. Thanks for stopping by Yammo's Reading Room, Jammerinos. We'll see you next time. Welcome back to Yammo's Reading Room, Jammerinos. Today, we've got Franklin Goes to the Hospital by Paulette Bourgeois and Brenda Clark. Let's begin. Franklin sometimes had colds and tummy aches, and every now and then he got cuts and bruises. He went to the doctors for regular checkups, and once the doctor came to Franklin's house. But until now, Franklin had never been to the hospital. Franklin and his friends were playing soccer. The ball was kicked to Franklin, and it hit him hard in the chest. "Oof," he groaned, but he kept on playing. That night at bath time, Franklin said, "Ouch," when he dried his tummy. His mother took a closer look. She said, "We'll go to the doctor first thing tomorrow." With gentle fingers, Dr. Bear poked and prodded Franklin's shell. She discovered a small crack. "It isn't serious, Franklin," she said, "but I have to put a pin in your shell to help it grow properly. I'll schedule an operation for you tomorrow morning at the hospital." "Will it hurt?" asked Franklin. "We'll give you sleep medicine before the operation so you won't feel a thing," replied Dr. Bear. "When you wake up, you'll be a little sore, but we'll keep you in the hospital overnight to make sure that you're okay." Dr. Bear explained that operations can only be done when a patient has an empty stomach. She told Franklin not to eat or drink after bedtime that night. Franklin didn't mind. His tummy was too busy flip-flopping for him to even think about eating. After school, Franklin's friends came to visit. Franklin showed them the book about hospitals that Dr. Bear had given him. Fox pointed to a picture and asked why everyone was wearing a mask. "Masks keep germs out of the operating room," explained Franklin. "Are you scared?" asked Beaver. "Of course he's not scared," replied Bear. "Franklin's very brave." Franklin didn't say anything. It was early when Franklin and his parents left for the hospital. With his blue blanket and Sam clutched in his arms, Franklin said goodbye to his room. Franklin's mother gave him a hug. "You'll be home tomorrow," she reminded him. "I know," Franklin said softly. "You're a very brave little turtle," said his father. At the hospital, Franklin was given a bracelet with his name on it. Then an attendant pushed him down a long hallway in a wheelchair. Franklin stared at all the strange equipment on the carts and trolleys, and he wrinkled his nose at the unfamiliar smells. As they went around corners and through doors, Franklin kept checking to make sure that his parents were keeping up. At last, they reached Franklin's room. A nurse gave Franklin a special gown to wear. She took his temperature and his blood pressure and listened to his heart. Next, she rubbed some cream on his hand. "This will numb your hand," she told him. "Then it won't hurt when the doctor puts in the needle for your sleep medicine." "Okay," said Franklin in a small voice. "You're a very brave patient," said the nurse. Soon the attendant came back to take Franklin to another room. Dr. Bear was waiting for him. "We're going to take some x-rays," she said. "I need to know exactly where to put the pin." "I don't want x-rays," whispered Franklin. "X-rays don't hurt," explained Dr. Bear. "The machine only takes pictures of what's inside you." "I know," said Franklin. He started to cry. Dr. Bear sat down beside Franklin. "Please tell me what's wrong," she said. Franklin sniffled. "Everybody thinks I'm brave, but I've just been pretending. X-rays will show that inside I'm scared." "Oh, Franklin," exclaimed Dr. Bear, "an X-ray doesn't show feelings. It only shows shell and bones." "You mean no one will know that I'm afraid?" Franklin asked. "No one," replied Dr. Bear, "but just because you're afraid doesn't mean you aren't brave. Being brave means doing what you have to do, no matter how scared you feel." Franklin thought for a few moments. "Well, I am scared to have the operation," he finally said, "but I know I have to so my shell will grow big and strong." Dr. Bear smiled. "That's what being brave is all about." Franklin let out a very deep sigh. "I'm ready now," he said. When the x-rays were done, Franklin was taken to the waiting room. "We aren't allowed into the operating room, Franklin," said his father. "But we'll be with you in the recovery room when you wake up," his mother promised. Soon, Dr. Bear came to get Franklin. His mother and father kissed him and waved as he went through the doors. In the operating room, Franklin said hello to the other doctors and nurses. Dr. Bear put stickers on Franklin's chest and explained that this was how they would watch his breathing and heartbeat during the operation. Then Dr. Raccoon put the needle for the sleep medicine in Franklin's hand. It didn't hurt at all. When that was done, he asked Franklin to count backwards from 100. "But I can only count backwards from 10, Franklin said. "That'll be just fine," said Dr. Bear. 10, 9, 8, began Franklin, and that was as far as he got. "Wake up, Franklin," called a faraway voice, but Franklin didn't want to wake up. In his dream, he was scoring the winning goal. "Wake up now, Franklin," said his mother. Slowly, Franklin opened his eyes. He saw his parents and Dr. Bear, and then he remembered. "I haven't finished counting," he said in a wobbly voice. "But I finished operating," said Dr. Bear with a laugh. 2 hours later, Franklin was back in his hospital room. He walked slowly to the mirror and looked at his bandages. "I guess it'll be a while before I can play soccer again," he sighed. "Dr. Bear thinks you'll heal very quickly," said Franklin's father. "She also said you're an excellent patient," added his mother. Franklin smiled. That night, after Franklin's parents had gone home, Dr. Bear came to see him. "I have something to show you, Franklin," she said. She held up his x-ray. "Is that me?" he asked. Dr. Bear nodded. "That's you," she said. "Brave through and through." That was Franklin Goes to the Hospital by Paulette Bourgeois and Brenda Clark. This is a really good book for if you ever have to go to the hospital. It shows you that there's really nothing to be scared about, and everyone's out there to take care of you. Thanks for tuning in to Yammo's Reading Room, Jammerinos. Have a great day. It's time again for Yammo's Reading Room, Jammerinos, and today we've got Franklin and the Hero. Let's begin. Franklin could count by twos and tie his shoes. He could say the alphabet without stopping, and he was learning how to read. His favorite books were about Dino-Roo, the kangaroo superhero. Franklin wanted to be just like Dino-Roo. One day, Franklin and Snail were reading Dino-Roo to the Rescue. "Look, Snail," cried Franklin. "Dino-Roo pulls Koala out of the quicksand with one mighty tug." "Dino-Roo's the best," Snail sighed happily. Franklin agreed. "I want to be as strong as she is." "I want to be as fast," said Snail. Franklin had an idea. "Let's play superheroes," he suggested. "I'm Turtle-Roo, strong enough to lift a truck." "And I'm Dino-Snail," announced Snail, "faster than a speeding train." "Together we'll keep the world safe," declared Franklin. "Just like Dino-Roo," added Snail. Turtle-Roo and Dino-Snail ran outside. They saved their snow fort from a terrible snow monster over and over again. Hours later, Franklin's mother called to them. "Turtle-Roo, Dino-Snail, come inside, I have a big surprise." When the superheroes were warm and dry, Franklin's mother told them the good news. "Dino-Roo will be autographing her new book at Mr. Heron's bookstore tomorrow morning," she said. "Do you know anyone who would like to go?" Franklin and Snail jumped up and down and gave each other the Dino-Roo salute. For the rest of the afternoon, Franklin and Snail talked about Dino-Roo. They reread all of Dino-Roo's adventures and made their plans for the next day. They were both so excited they could hardly eat their dinner or fall asleep that night. Early in the morning, Franklin and Snail set off for the bookstore. As they rounded a bend in the path, they saw Mrs. Muskrat searching through the snow. "I dropped my house key," she explained, "and now I'm locked out. Can you help me find it?" Franklin looked at Snail. "But," Snail said. "Oh, come on, Snail," Franklin decided. "This shouldn't take two superheroes long at all." Franklin was wrong. They dug and dug without finding the key. "We may not find it until the snow melts," Mrs. Muskrat said finally. "It's time to call off the search." Franklin and Snail breathed sighs of relief and turned to go. "If you could pile some snow under the window," continued Mrs. Muskrat, "maybe we could get in that way." "But, Mrs. Muskrat," Franklin said, and then stopped. Mrs. Muskrat was shivering. So Franklin huffed and puffed and rolled a huge snowball to the kitchen window. He climbed on top and pushed and shoved until the window opened just enough for Snail to crawl through. Up and over the ledge went Snail, across the counter, down the wall, over the floor, and up the door. Finally, Snail turned the door handle. "Hooray!" shouted Franklin. "This calls for hot chocolate and cake," declared Mrs. Muskrat. Franklin and Snail looked at the kitchen clock. "Thank you, Mrs. Muskrat," said Franklin, "but, you see..." And he finally told her all about Dino-Roo. "Well, off you go," exclaimed Mrs. Muskrat. "I can thank both of you properly another time." Franklin and Snail hurried to town and rushed into the bookstore, but no one was there. They had missed Dino-Roo. Franklin's shoulders slumped, and Snail started to cry. As they turned to go, Mr. Heron came out of the back room. "We've been waiting for you," he said with a smile. Mr. Heron stepped aside, and there was Dino-Roo. Franklin and Snail gasped in amazement. "I couldn't leave until I'd met the two real-life superheroes," Dino-Roo announced. Franklin and Snail were confused. "Mrs. Muskrat phoned and told us what happened," explained Mr. Heron. "You are both heroes to her." But we were just pretending to be heroes, said Franklin. Real heroes are super fast and super strong. Sometimes they are, agreed Dinaroo, but there are other ways to be a hero. Franklin thought for a moment, then he smiled. I never knew that helping someone could make you a hero, he said. Dinaroo gave both Franklin and Snail a copy of her new book, Dinaroo's Jungle Adventure. Inside each was a dedication from Dinaroo. Franklin read his aloud. To Franklin, my heroic friend. Franklin and Snail gave Dinaroo a big hug, and Mr. Heron took everyone's picture. Later that night, when Snail's family had left and Mrs. Muskrat's cake was all gone, Franklin went to bed with his new book and a flashlight. He planned to read the whole story, but soon he was sound asleep. Even superheroes need their rest. And that was Franklin and the Hero, a super heroic, super cool story on YAMMO's Reading Room. Thanks for clicking on YAMMO's Reading Room, Jammerinos. We'll see you again next time. Welcome back to YAMMO's Reading Room, Jammerinos. This is Franklin Wants a Pet by Paulette Bourgeois and Brenda Clark. Let's begin. Franklin could count by twos and tie his shoes. He could sleep alone in his small dark shell. He even had a best friend named Bear. But Franklin wanted something else. He wanted a pet. Franklin had wanted a pet since he was small, but whenever he asked, "May I have a pet, please?" his parents said, "Maybe someday." Franklin waited for a long time. He often pretended to have a pet. He took Sam, his stuffed dog, for walks. He taught Sam tricks. He even helped Sam bury some bones. But Sam wasn't a real pet. One day, Franklin asked his parents again, "May I have a pet, please?" Franklin's parents looked at each other. "We'll think about it," they answered. At first, Franklin was happy because they did not say no. Then, Franklin became worried. His parents could think about things for days and days. That day, Franklin visited Bear and told him all about the pet he wanted. "If I had a pet, it would be a bird," said Bear. "Why?" asked Franklin. "Because birds sing beautiful songs," said Bear. "Birds are nice," said Franklin, "but their loud singing may wake me too early." Franklin waited until morning before asking his parents if they had finished thinking yet. "Not quite," said Franklin's mother. "We need to know that you could care for a pet." Franklin nodded his head up and down. "Could you feed your pet?" asked Franklin's father. Franklin nodded again. He almost said please 100 times in a row, but he stopped himself. Franklin visited Beaver and told her all about the pet he wanted. "If I had a pet, it would be a cat," said Beaver. "Why?" said Franklin. "Because cats make purring sounds," she answered. "Cats are nice," said Franklin, "but you never know where they are." Later that day, Franklin asked his parents, "Are you finished thinking?" "Not yet," they answered. "Please hurry," said Franklin. His father sighed. "Franklin, this is a big decision. A pet costs money to buy and to keep." Franklin offered all the money in his piggy bank and hoped that it was enough. After counting his pennies, Franklin visited with Goose and told her all about the pet he wanted. "If I had a pet, it would be a bunny," said Goose. "Why?" asked Franklin. "Because bunnies have wiggly whiskers." "Bunnies are nice," said Franklin, "but I think whiskers might make me sneeze." After 3 whole days, Franklin was tired of waiting for his parents to finish thinking. He had a plan. He brought Sam to the breakfast table. "I have been taking care of Sam for a long, long time," he said. "I will take good care of a real pet, too. I will feed it. I will clean its house. We can take it to the vet if it gets sick." Franklin's parents smiled. "It sounds as if you've been doing a lot of thinking too," they said. "So may I have a pet, please?" he begged. They whispered to each other. Then they nodded their heads up and down. "Oh, thank you," said Franklin. He wanted to go to the pet store right away. "We'll help you choose a puppy tomorrow," said his father. "No, thank you," said Franklin. "I do not want a dog." His parents were surprised. "Dogs are nice," said Franklin, "but I want a quiet pet." Franklin's mother asked if he wanted a kitten. "No, thank you," said Franklin. "Kittens are nice, but I want a pet that stays close by." "Is it a hamster that you want?" said Franklin's father. Franklin shook his head. "No, thank you." "A rabbit?" asked Franklin's mother. "No, thank you," said Franklin. "What kind of pet do you want?" asked his parents. Franklin smiled and said, "I'll show you tomorrow." At the pet store, Franklin pointed to a fish. "I want a goldfish," he said. "A goldfish," they said. "Why? A fish cannot do tricks or play with you." So Franklin explained. He liked to watch fish swim slowly around and around. He liked their beautiful colors, and he liked the way they made him feel inside, quiet and calm. Besides, he said, I love goldfish. Well, that's the best reason of all, said Franklin's parents. Franklin named his fish Goldie. He took very good care of her, just as he'd promised. Every morning, Franklin watched Goldie swim around and around, and every night before he went to bed, Franklin blew a great big fish kiss and whispered, I love you, Goldie. And that was Franklin Wants a Pet by Paulette Bourgeois and Brenda Clark. You know, Yammo once had a pet goldfish. It got so big that I had to donate it to a pond, and today it's still living happy and healthy, and it's about this big. Do you guys have any pets at home? I bet they're probably really cute. Thank you for tuning in to Yammo's Reading Room, Jammerinos. We'll see you next time. Welcome back to Yammo's Reading Room, Jammerinos. Today we've got Clifford Goes to Dog School by Norman Bridwell. Let's begin. I'm Emily Elizabeth. This is my dog Clifford. Clifford is a very smart dog. He can do tricks. He can beg. He can shake hands. You really should see him play dead. He's good at that. I thought he was perfect, but my aunt didn't agree. She was a dog trainer. She said that no dog was perfect unless he had been to dog school like her dog, Sandy. Clifford was too big for regular dog school, so my aunt said she would train Clifford herself. First, he had to learn to heel. He had to walk next to her on a leash. That leash was a little too short. Auntie got a longer leash for Clifford. That leash was a little too long. Poor Auntie. Auntie said we would come back to that lesson. Next, she told Clifford to sit. Clifford is very smart. He sat. Luckily, Clifford didn't sit down really hard. The man wasn't hurt, just surprised. Auntie said that Clifford was pretty good at sitting. Now he needed to learn how to stay. That meant not moving until he was told to move, no matter what happened. She told him to sit and stay. Stay! Auntie said she had some good books on dog training that I should see. We went to her house a few blocks away. She had so many good books about dogs. I love to read. I guess I was so busy reading that I forgot about Clifford. He was still sitting and staying. He knew he had to sit no matter what happened. Sandy moved, but Clifford stayed. Even when a frisbee flew by his nose, he stayed. And Clifford loves to chase frisbees. Even when some dogs and cats played near him, Clifford stayed, but it was hard. Back at Auntie's house, I suddenly remembered Clifford. How could I have forgotten my dog? I ran back to Clifford as fast as I could. I wasn't very careful. I forgot to look both ways when I crossed the street. Clifford saved me. I guess Clifford will never be the best trained dog. But to me, he'll always be the best dog in the world. That was Clifford Goes to Dog School by Norman Bridwell. I personally think that Clifford is an A+ trained dog. What about you? Thank you for tuning in to Yammo's Reading Room, and we'll see you next time. It's Yammo's Reading Room time again, Jammerinos. Today we've got another Clifford book, Clifford's First Valentine's Day by Norman Bridwell. Whee! That's me, Emily Elizabeth, playing with my friends and my big red dog, Clifford. We're excited because it's almost time for Valentine's Day. Guess who always gets the biggest Valentine? Before Clifford grew up, he was a very small puppy. He had a lot of adventures when he was little. I'll never forget his first Valentine's Day. It all started a few days before the holiday. I was making Valentines for Mommy, Daddy, Grandma, and Grandpa. Clifford wanted to help. I gave him some paper. He had his own way of cutting out hearts. In those days, we used white paste to stick decorations on our Valentines. Clifford liked the smell of paste. He thought it would be good to eat. He was wrong. I had to wash out his mouth. But I didn't see the paste all over his paws. Uh-oh! What a sticky mess! After I had cleaned up my sticky red puppy, we finished the Valentines. Clifford liked the special card I made for Grandma. I wanted to mail it right away. We got ready to take the card to the post office. It was cold outside, but I made sure Clifford stayed nice and warm. When we got to the post office, I pulled down the door to the mail chute. Uh-oh, Clifford lost his balance. He disappeared into the dark hole and came out in the basement mailroom. He sank down under a ton of letters in the cart. The postal workers didn't see him. Poor Clifford. He struggled and struggled trying to get out, but he just kept slipping deeper and deeper. Mommy and I told the postmaster what had happened. He took us to the mailroom. He said we could look for our puppy there. How would we ever find Clifford? Suddenly, we heard a sound. The mail was barking. We dug into the letters as fast as we could. Clifford was glad to see us, and we were glad to have him back. On Valentine's Day, I got a lot of cards. I loved the one Grandma sent. But the best Valentine of all was from Clifford. He will always be my favorite Valentine. That was Clifford's First Valentine's Day by Norman Bridwell. Valentine's Day is one of YAMMO's favorite holidays of all time, and I can't wait for February. Have a great day, Jammerinos. We'll see you next time. Welcome back to YAMMO's Reading Room, Jammerinos. Today we are flying through with Angela's Airplane by Robert Munsch, illustrated by Marko Marchenko. Let's get going. Angela's father took her to the airport, but when they got there, a terrible thing happened. Angela's father got lost. Angela looked under the airplanes and on top of the airplanes and beside the airplanes, but she couldn't find him anyplace. So Angela decided to look inside an airplane. She saw one with an open door and climbed up the steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right up to the top. Her father was not there, and neither was anyone else. Angela had never been in an airplane before. In the front, there was a seat that had lots of buttons all around it. Angela loved to push buttons, so she walked up to the front, sat down in the seat, and said to herself, "It's okay if I push just one button. Don't you think it's okay if I push just one button? Oh yes, it's okay. Yes, 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 yes." Then she slowly pressed the bright red button. Right away, the door closed. Angela said, "Well, it's okay if I push just one more button. Don't you think it's okay if I push just one more button? Oh yes, it's okay. Yes, 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 yes." Slowly, she pushed the yellow button. Right away, the lights came on. Angela said, "It's okay if I just push one more button. Don't you think it's okay if I push just one more button? Oh yes, it's okay. Yes, 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 yes." She pushed the green button. Right away, the motor came on. Vroom, 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 vroom. Angela said, "Yikes!" and pushed all the buttons at once. The airplane took off and went right up in the air. When Angela looked out the window, she saw that she was very high in the sky. She didn't know how to get down. The only thing to do was push one more button, so slowly she pushed the black button. It was the radio button. A voice came on the radio and said, "Bring back that airplane, you thief, you!" Angela said, "My name is Angela. I am 5 years old and I don't know how to fly airplanes." "Oh dear," said the voice. "What a mess. Listen carefully, Angela. Take the steering wheel and turn it to the left." Angela turned the wheel and very slowly the airplane went in a big circle and came back right over the airport. "Okay," said the voice. "Now pull back on the wheel." Angela pulled back on the wheel and the airplane slowly went down to the runway. It hit once and bounced. It hit again and bounced. Then one wing scraped the ground. Right away, the whole plane smashed and broke into little pieces. Angela was left sitting on the ground, and she didn't even have a scratch. All sorts of cars and trucks came speeding out of the terminal. There were police cars, ambulances, fire trucks, and buses, and all sorts of people came running. But in front of everybody was Angela's father. He picked her up and said, "Angela, are you all right?" "Yes," said Angela. "Oh, Angela," he said, "the airplane is not all right. It is in very small pieces." "I know," said Angela. "It was a mistake." "Well, Angela," said her father, "promise me you will never fly another airplane." "I promise," said Angela. "Are you sure?" said the father. Angela said very loudly, "I promise, I promise, I promise." Angela didn't fly an airplane for a very long time. But when she grew up, she didn't become a doctor. She didn't become a truck driver. She didn't become a secretary, and she didn't become a nurse. She became an airplane pilot. And that was Angela's Airplane by Robert Munsch. You know, you can become a pilot too, but I wouldn't really suggest going about it the way Angela did. It might not turn out as well as it did this time. Thanks for tuning in to Yammo's Reading Room, Jammerinos. I'll see you for the next one. Do you know what time it is? Guess what time it is? That's right, it is Yammo's Reading Room time, and today we have The Paper Bag Princess by Robert Munsch. Let's start it up! Elizabeth was a beautiful princess. She lived in a castle and had expensive princess clothes. She was going to marry a prince named Ronald. Unfortunately, a dragon smashed her castle, burned all her clothes with his fiery breath, and carried off Prince Ronald. Elizabeth decided to chase the dragon and get Ronald back. She looked everywhere for something to wear, but the only thing she could find that was not burnt was a paper bag. So she put on the paper bag and followed the dragon. He was easy to follow because he left a trail of burnt forests and horses' bones. Finally, Elizabeth came to a cave with a large door that had a huge knocker on it. She took hold of the knocker and banged on the door. The dragon stuck his nose out of the door and said, "Well, a princess. I love to eat princesses, but I have already eaten a whole castle today. I am a very busy dragon. Come back tomorrow." He slammed the door so fast that Elizabeth almost got her nose caught. Elizabeth grabbed the knocker and banged on the door again. The dragon stuck his nose out of the door and said, "Go away. I love to eat princesses, but I have already eaten a whole castle today. I am a very busy dragon. Come back tomorrow." "Wait," shouted Elizabeth. "Is it true that you are the smartest and fiercest dragon in the whole world?" "Yes," said the dragon. "Is it true," said Elizabeth, "that you can burn up 10 forests with your fiery breath?" "Oh, yes," said the dragon, and he took a huge deep breath and breathed out so much fire that he burnt up 50 forests. "Fantastic," said Elizabeth, and the dragon took another huge breath and breathed out so much fire that he burnt up 100 forests. "Magnificent," said Elizabeth, and the dragon took another huge breath, but this time nothing came out. The dragon didn't even have enough fire left to cook a meatball. Elizabeth said, "Dragon, is it true that you can fly around the world in just 10 seconds?" "Why, yes," said the dragon, and jumped up and flew all the way around the world in just 10 seconds. He was very tired when he got back, but Elizabeth shouted, "Fantastic! Do it again!" So the dragon jumped up and flew around the world in just 20 seconds. When he got back, he was too tired to talk, and he lay down and went straight to sleep. Elizabeth whispered very softly, "Hey, dragon." The dragon didn't move at all. She lifted up the dragon's ear and put her head right inside. She shouted as loud as she could, "Hey, dragon!" The dragon was so tired he didn't even move. Elizabeth walked right over the dragon and opened the door to the cave. There was Prince Ronald. He looked at her and said, "Elizabeth, you are a mess. You smell like ashes, your hair is all tangled, and you are wearing a dirty old paper bag. Come back when you are dressed like a real princess." "Ronald," said Elizabeth, "your clothes are really pretty and your hair is very neat. You look like a real prince, but you are a bum." They didn't get married after all. And that was The Paper Bag Princess by Robert Munsch. And just keep in mind, here's a Yammo tip for you. If you have someone in your life like Ronald who doesn't make you feel very good, you don't have to spare any time at all for people like that. Remember that one. Have a good night, Jammerinos. It's Yammo's Reading Room, Jammerinos, and this one's gonna be a spicy one. Make sure to get your fire extinguishers ready because we have got The Fire Station by Robert Munsch. Let's go! Michael and Sheila were walking down the street. As they passed the fire station, Sheila said, "Michael, let's go ride a fire truck." "Well," said Michael, "I think maybe I should ask my mother, and I think maybe I should ask my father, and I think we should go in," said Sheila. Then she grabbed Michael's hand and pulled him up to the door. Sheila knocked. Blam, 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 blam. A large fireman came out and asked, "What can I do for you?" "Well," said Michael, "maybe you could show us a fire truck and hoses and rubber boots and ladders and all kinds of stuff like that." "Certainly," said the fireman. "And maybe," said Sheila, "you will let us drive a fire truck?" Certainly not, said the fireman. They went in and looked at ladders and hoses and big rubber boots. Then they looked at little fire trucks and big fire trucks and enormous fire trucks. When they were done, Michael said, "Let's go." "Right," said Sheila. "Let's go into the enormous fire truck." While they were in the truck, the fire alarm went off. Clang, 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 clang. "Oh no," said Michael. "Oh yes," said Sheila. Then she grabbed Michael and pulled him into the back seat. Firemen came running from all over. They slid down poles and ran downstairs. Then they jumped onto the truck and drove off. The firemen didn't look in the back seat. Michael and Sheila were in the back seat. They came to an enormous fire. Lots of yucky colored smoke got all over everything. It colored Michael yellow, green, and blue. It colored Sheila purple, green, and yellow. When the fire chief saw them, he said, "What are you doing here?" Sheila said, "We came in the fire truck. We thought maybe it was a bus. We thought maybe it was a taxi. We thought maybe it was an elevator. We thought maybe—" "I think maybe I'd better take you home," said the fire chief. He put Michael and Sheila in his car and drove them away. When Michael got home, he knocked on the door. His mother opened it and said, "You messy boy, you can't come in and play with Michael. You're too dirty." She slammed the door right in Michael's face. "My own mother," said Michael. "She didn't even know me." He knocked on the door again. His mother opened the door and said, "You dirty boy, you can't come in and play with Michael. You're too dirty. You're absolutely filthy. You're a total mess. You're—" "Oh my, oh no, you're Michael!" Michael went inside and lived in the bathtub for 3 days until he got clean. When Sheila came home, she knocked on the door. Her father opened it and saw an incredibly messy girl. He said, "You can't come in to play with Sheila. You're too dirty." He slammed the door right in her face. "Ow," said Sheila. "My own father, and he didn't even know me." She kicked and pounded on the door as loudly as she could. Her father opened the door and said, "Now stop that racket, you dirty girl. You can't come in to play with Sheila. You're too dirty. You're absolutely filthy. You're a total mess. You're—" "Oh my, oh no! You're Sheila!" "Right," said Sheila. "I went to a fire in the back of a fire truck, and I got all smoky. I wasn't even scared." Sheila went inside and lived in the bathtub for 5 days until she got clean. Then Michael took Sheila on a walk past the police station. He told her, "If you ever take me in another fire truck, I am going to ask the police to put you in jail." "Jail," said Sheila. "Let's go look at the jail. What a great idea." "Oh no," yelled Michael, and Sheila grabbed his hand and pulled him into the police station. Wow, that was an action-packed book. The Fire Station by Robert Munsch. Is it just me? There's a little bit warm in here. Whew. Yammo's gotta go cool down. Until next time, Jammerinos. Welcome back to Yammo's Reading Room, Jammerinos. Today, we got a really special one. I mean, they're all special, but this one is special because it's shiny and it's orange. This is Green Eggs and Ham by Dr. Seuss. And did you know that Dr. Seuss used only 50 different words to write this whole book? That's really impressive. Let's see how it turns out. I am Sam. I am Sam. Sam I am. That's Sam I am. That's Sam I am. I do not like that Sam I am. Do you like green eggs and ham? I do not like them, Sam I am. I do not like green eggs and ham. Would you like them here or there? I would not like them here or there. I would not like them anywhere. I do not like green eggs and ham. I do not like them, Sam I am. Would you like them in a house? Would you like them with a mouse? I do not like them in a house. I do not like them with a mouse. I do not like them here or there. I do not like them anywhere. I do not like green eggs and ham. I do not like them, Sam I am. Would you eat them in a box? Or would you eat them with a fox? Not in a box, not with a fox, not in a house, and not with a mouse. I would not eat them here or there. I would not eat them anywhere. I do not like green eggs and ham. I do not like them, Sam I am. Would you? Could you? In a car? Eat them, here they are. I would not, could not, in a car. You may like them, you will see. You may like them in a tree. I would not, could not, in a tree. Not in a car, you let me be. I do not like them in a box. I do not like them with a fox. I do not like them in a house. I do not like them with a mouse. I do not like them here or there. I do not like them anywhere. I do not like green eggs and ham. I do not like them, Sam I am. A train, a train, a train, a train. Could you, would you, in a train? Not on a train, not in a tree, not in a car, Sam. Let me be. I would not, could not, in a box. I could not, would not, with a fox. I will not eat them with a mouse. I will not eat them in a house. I will not eat them here or there. I will not eat them anywhere. I do not like green eggs and ham. I do not like them, Sam I am. Say, in the dark? Here in the dark. Would you, could you, in the dark? I would not, could not, in the dark. Would you, could you, in the rain? I would not, could not, in the rain. Not in the dark, not on a train. Not in a car, not in a tree. I do not like them, Sam, you see. Not in a house, not in a box. Not with a mouse, not with a fox. I will not eat them here or there. I do not like them anywhere. You do not like green eggs and ham? I do not like them, Sam I am. Could you, would you, with a goat? I would not, could not, with a goat. Would you, could you, on a boat? I could not, would not, on a boat. I will not, with a goat. I will not eat them in the rain. I will not eat them on a train. Not in the dark, not in a tree, not in a car. You let me be. I do not like them in a box. I do not like them with a fox. I will not eat them in a house. I do not like them with a mouse. I do not like them here or there. I do not like them anywhere. I do not like green eggs and ham. I do not like them, Sam I am. You do not like them. So you say, try them, and you may. Try them, and you may, I say. Sam, if you will let me be, I will try them, and you will see. Say, I like green eggs and ham. I do, I like them, Sam I am. And I would eat them in a boat. And I would eat them with a goat. And I will eat them in the rain, and in the dark, and on a train, and in a car, and in a tree. They are so good, you see? So I will eat them in a box, and I will eat them with a fox. And I will eat them in the house, and I will eat them with a mouse. And I will eat them here and there. Say, I'll eat them anywhere. I do so like green eggs and ham. Thank you, Sam I am. Well, I think that worked out pretty well for Dr. Seuss, don't you think? It's probably one of his more famous books. And guess what? Here's a tip. If you want to make green eggs and ham, just add a little bit of green food coloring to your eggs. With your parents' permission, of course. I don't want Yammo getting in trouble. Okay, Jammerinos, thank you so much for stopping by. Stay tuned for the next one. See you later. It's show and tell day here on Yammo's Reading Room. What am I going to show and tell? Why, Show and Tell, of course, by Robert Munsch. Illustrated by Michael Marchenko, of course. Let's go! Benjamin wanted to take something really neat to school for his show and tell, so he decided to take his new baby sister. He went upstairs, picked her up, put her in his knapsack, and walked off to school. But when Ben sat down, his baby sister finally woke up. She was not happy inside the knapsack and started to cry. Wah, wah. The teacher looked at him and said, "Benjamin, stop making that noise." Ben said, "That's not me. It's my baby sister. She's in my knapsack. I brought her for show and tell." "Yikes," said the teacher. "You can't keep a baby in a knapsack." She grabbed Ben's knapsack and opened it up. The baby looked at the teacher and said, "Wah, wah." "Don't worry," said the teacher. "I know how to take care of babies." She picked it up and rocked it back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Unfortunately, the teacher was not the baby's mother, and she didn't rock quite right. The baby cried even louder. Wah, wah, wah! The principal came running in. He looked at the teacher and said, "Stop making that noise." The teacher said, "It's not me, it's Sharon, Ben's new baby sister. He brought her for show and tell. She won't shut up." The principal said, "Don't worry, I know how to make kids be quiet." He picked up the baby and yelled, "Hey you, be quiet!" The baby did not like that at all. It screamed really loudly, "Wah, wah, wah!" The principal said, "What's the matter with this baby? It must be sick. I'll call a doctor." The doctor came with a big black bag. She looked in the baby's eyes, and she looked in the baby's ears, and she looked in the baby's mouth. She said, "Don't worry, I know what to do. This baby needs a needle." So the doctor opened her bag, got out a short needle, and said, "Nah, too small." The doctor opened her bag, got out a longer needle, and said, "Nah, too small." The doctor opened her bag, got out a really long needle, and said, "Nah, too small." The doctor reached into her bag, got out an enormous needle, and said, just right." When the baby saw that enormous needle, it yelled as loudly as it could, "Wah!" Ben said, "What's the matter with this school? Nobody knows what to do with a baby." He ran down to the principal's office and called his mother on the phone. He said, "Help, help, help! You've got to come to the school right away." The mother said, "Ben, your little sister is lost. I can't come to school. I have to find her." "She's not lost," said Ben. "I took her to school in my knapsack." "Oh no," yelled the mother. She ran down the street and into the school. The principal and the teacher and the doctor were standing around the baby, and the baby was yelling as loudly as possible, "Wah, wah, wah!" The mother picked up the baby and rocked it back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. The baby said, and went to sleep. "Oh, thank you," said the principal. "That baby was making so much noise, it was just making me feel sick." "Sick?" said the doctor. "Sick? Did that man say he was sick? He must get a needle." So the doctor opened her bag and got out a short needle and said, "Nah, too small." The doctor opened her bag and got out a longer needle and said, "Nah, too small." The doctor opened her bag and got out a really long needle and said, "Nah, too small." The doctor reached into her bag, got out an enormous needle, and said, just right." The principal looked at the enormous needle and said, "Wah, wah, wah," and ran out the door. "Now," said the mother, "it's time to take this baby home." "Right," said Ben. "You can use my knapsack." "What a good idea," said the mother. Ben and his mother put the baby into bed. She went to sleep and didn't cry, not even once. Ben went back to school carrying some strange things for show and tell, and he wasn't out of place at all. And that was Show and Tell by Robert Munsch. And guess what? If you take a look at the last page of this book, you'll see all the characters from Robert Munsch's other stories. And double guess what? YAMMO has read almost all of them. So take a look at YAMMO's reading room videos across my whole channel, and you'll see a lot of those characters and a whole bunch of Robert Munsch's books. Okay, we'll see you there, Jammerinos.